Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models and Memories Weekly, episode 100. We're at episode 100, doing a little mental math. That's about 50 hours of this show. Models and Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week. How? Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week I have a lot to get into. Games Workshop is making fun of us with the new Caradron Overlords model. The Imperial Guard Horsies are available for pre-order and they look stunning. And I have 4 more start collecting boxes, boarding patrol boxes to do some savings calculations for. But first, I want to talk about sharks. Not all sharks live in the water. Some live on the internet. Surfshark VPN is the most trusted name in VPNs, VPN standing for Virtual Private Network. I always have 50 links open on my computer looking for painting inspiration, and Surfshark VPN allows me to browse the internet safely by giving me an encrypted connection to one of Surfshark's 3,200 servers, keeping me safe from hackers and snoopers, and it doesn't end at safety. I am constantly painting, and really what that means is I am constantly procrastinating while painting. Recently, I was trying to do one of my favorite things, Netflix and paint, and I was looking for one of my all-time favorite shows, The Office, but I found out that The Office is no longer streaming on American Netflix. I need my Steve Carell. Luckily, using Surfshark, I made my computer take a little trip. It takes just one click, open a list, and boom, my computer was in Frankfurt, Germany. Now I can get back to procrastinating on my painting while getting my early 2000s mockumentary comedy fix. Why not try out Surfshark VPN, linked in the description below, use our promo code EOB to save 83% off and get 3 months free. Games Workshop hit us with a curveball with a new Caradron's Overlord Codex and a brand new miniature. Code Rights are the ultimate rules lawyers who weaponize the Caradron code for power and profit in the brand new Battle Tome. This guy is phenomenal. Caradron warfare is bound by the same sprawling constitution that governs every aspect of their society, a tangled knot of rules, contracts, and oaths known simply as the Caradron Code. Puzzled by this pyramid of precedents and provisions, you need to call on a real specialist. It's just describing all of us Warhammer fans and all of our books and all of our codexes and all of our actuallys. Most Duardin of the Skyports can recite swaths of the code verbatim, but few can navigate its treacherous legal landscape and scrupulous strict syntax as completely as the Code Right. Armed with a personal library of lofty text hoisted on mechanical arms, these book-smart battle boffins can unravel the ramifications of seemingly innocuous addendums and erratas. They are quite literally rules lawyers, eager to convince anyone else that their interpretation of the code is the right one. Let's take a look at this model. This guy is awesome. I love the little books. I love the speakers. I love his messed up face. I love him pointing at the rule that says that if he has cover from obscuring terrain, you're not allowed to shoot at him, even if you're on a vantage point. Sean, like it's so wonderful and beautiful, and this model is hilarious and a very, very verbose and surprisingly well-written article. It's very, very funny. I really, really like the Sky Dwarves. I'm definitely going to be collecting an army of the Caradron Overlords in the future. I'm very excited to paint it, and man, this model is awesome. I love his little bookshelf. How does he even get back there? I guess the mechanical arms reach back and grab those books, and he knows every single rule and every single piece of lore, and he knows exactly when anybody is doing anything wrong. It is absolutely wonderful. The only thing he needs is like instead of a pistol in a little holster, he needs like a bunch of bookmarks in the holster and sticky notes and highlighters. That would be the only thing that would make him even better. Maybe when I get this model, that's what I'll do. I'll have a bunch of like little highlights and little markings in his book. Does anybody else do that? I love to take a highlighter and like a marker and just write all and like highlight and marker up all over my codexes. But like I know some people think that that is absolute blasphemy and that you're like destroying your book. But I find it so helpful. I mean, codexes are not real books. They're just information. And so I find it really helpful to like write in little notes and highlight things. And it just makes me feel good when I open up my book and I see like highlights and little corrections. And codexes often go through like errors and frequently asked questions, so I like to write those in the book alongside the rule. I am this guy. What is he called? The code right. He knows the code and he knows he's right. This model is phenomenal and very nicely painted. Sometimes Games Workshop and gold don't really mix, but I think this guy has a really good mix of a little bit of gold and mostly other colors, where maybe some other things like the Adeptus Custodes are a little bit too gold and they look kind of bland. But this guy is awesome. And speaking of things that look awesome, the Atlan Rough Riders. Now Games Workshop already showed these off before, but I just want to take another look at them because when I saw them like just pop up on the Warhammer community article, they really, really, really look good. The little horsies. The only flaw I can see in these guys, just a little bit, is if you don't like the Attilan, like Atlan look, like the puffy hats and the spiky hats and the fur-lined cloak, it'd be a little tiny bit tricky. I mean, the head swap would be the easiest thing, but the furry cuffs on the gloves would be a tiny bit tricky to modify, especially since they're posed really, really nicely. It doesn't look like it's going to be arm. It looks like it's going to be a little bit more tough than that. But man, if you just swap those heads with Krieg heads, I know the Krieg do have the best looking cavalry over on Forge World with the weird hairless gas mask horses, if they're even horses. Like, those models are absolutely fantastic, but man, these guys would look so good alongside the new plastic Death Corps of Krieg, the veteran guardsmen originally made for Kill Team 21. They really, really look fun. A big ol' 3-sprue kit, 5 horses. They're all armored in the front. I forget the movie, but there's like a great movie where like the cavalry just rides through a bunch of soldiers and they just go right through them. And the armor on these horses makes perfect sense to just ride straight through people. It's so awesome. The big old grenades, melt-a-bombs on the end of poles is awesome. These guys, although, is that pole really giving you enough distance to be safe from a melt-a-bomb explosion? I would want that melt-a-bomb to be as far away from me as physically possible. Although I suppose melta is like lava, and so I guess maybe it would just create a super hot spot. It wouldn't necessarily create like a giant explosion. Like a frag grenade would probably be more dangerous than a melt-a-bomb. Thinking of trying to imagine that there's logic in the world of Warhammer 40,000. Because a melta is sort of like a lava flamethrower, so presumably a melta-bomb is like a lava grenade. And I love a good melta-bomb. I used to put melta-bombs on as many Space Marines as I possibly could back in 6th edition, in the hopes of taking out enemy vehicles, although none of my friends really had any vehicles except Sean, and he never let me get in close with my melta-bombs. But I could probably have done the job with these Atlan Rough Riders. Although he was the one playing guard and I was the one playing Necron, so I guess it's a moot point, but man, these models are absolutely beautiful, and I cannot wait to see them in the hands of regular old hobbyists because I want to see some alternate color schemes. I want to see some like classic military green. I want to see some weird stuff, Catachan camo. Catachan, it's hard to imagine Catachan on these horses. I think way back in the day in like a White Dwarf article, there was Catachan riding the lizards from the old Dark Elf range for Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and that looked decent as anything looked back then, but it's hard to imagine them on these horses. Because, yeah, they do feel a little bit more like the wrong kind of military than the Catachan. But I think for almost all Imperial Guard forces, these would fit right in. Although my heart will always belong to the Talon Desert Raiders hippo horses. Those guys were fantastic. I think Forge World discontinued those about 15 years ago, but I still absolutely love them. As exciting as the Atlan Rough Riders coming to pre-order is, Games Workshop showed off a whole bunch of new boarding patrols, which I thought that they were going to space these out a little bit more, but apparently they're just going to try to dump them all every single week, so I am excited to see that. And we got 4 this week. Now, It's hard to know exactly the prices these are going to be because we got the Space Marine one a little while ago as the only one that you can actually buy, and it's $110. But we are right on the verge of a price rise from Games Workshop. So at what point is that going to hit? Has the price rise already been factored into these boxes because they're brand new? Like, I think some of the Imperial Guard stuff that's coming to pre-order has already been factored in for the price rise, and then other things we'll have to wait to see, like how those just change on the day. But I'm gonna keep going with $110 because that is what you can currently buy one of these Boarding Patrol boxes for. And the first one to look at is the Boarding Patrol Adeptus Mechanicus. It comes with a box of Skitarii Rangers / Vanguard, a box of Skitarii Infiltrators / Ruststalkers, Kataphron Destroyers, which I do like the Kataphron Destroyers, but Games Workshop keeps putting them in every single Adeptus Mechanicus box they possibly can. There's one comes in their Battle Force, and two boxes of those things comes in the Christmas Battle Force that you can actually still buy from the Games Workshop web store, which makes me wonder if they didn't sell as well this Christmas as some of the other boxes have in previous years. And you also get a Tech Priest Dominus. If you add the retail cost of all of those boxes together, it comes out to $203 for a savings of $93, which is pretty darn good. I mean, it's pretty much half. It's a really good savings. And if you are a big fan of Kill Team and you were thinking of starting the Hunter Clade, which is the White Dwarf rules for the Adeptus Mechanicus, and they are very strong. I've been playing them in game and I've beaten Nick twice. I don't know if that's saying much, but But if you wanted to pick up a box, if you wanted to make that Kill Team, you would be spending about $100 because you'd have to buy the Skitarii Infiltrators / Ruststalkers and the Skitarii Rangers / Vanguard. So you could almost say that you're buying this box and then you get all of that other stuff for free. I mean, free with a billion asterisks on it because Games Workshop kits are very expensive and you still are paying for them. But you're just getting more than you would have if you had just bought those two kits that you need to put together the Kill Team. Pretty good box. Moving on to Boarding Patrol Chaos Demons, but just Khorne. So I would bet that we're not going to get Chaos Demon boxes for the other gods because it seems like Games Workshop is moving away from stuff like that and going only Khorne. Maybe we're seeing that just because they just came out with Khorne as its own sub-faction for the Chaos Space Marines, so they're focusing on Khorne demons and not focusing on some of the other demons, but I don't know, we'll see. You get Karnak, the Hound of Vengeance, 2 boxes of Flesh Hounds, and a box of Khorne Bloodletters. If you add up the retail cost of all of those boxes, it comes out to $186 for a savings of $76. A little bit less, but still pretty good. And it is fun to get all of those evil puppies, all of the evil flesh hound Khorne puppies. It is really, really fun. Although, I really, really wish we did get to see a Tzeentch box, a Slaanesh box, and a Nurgle box, because those I think would be excellent boxes. I always go back to the old start collecting Chaos Demons that came with like all 4 of the base troops for the 4 different Chaos Gods, and it was like a little rainbow. It looked like a box of Fruit Loops, but it was Warhammer 40k figures. So I would like to see those boxes come out, but currently I don't have high hopes for getting anything other than these Khorne demons. Moving right along to Boarding Patrol Gene Stealer Cults. Gene Stealer Cults famously have an exceptionally good combat patrol for, man, their combat patrol is like right around 50% off, and it comes with by far the most miniatures of any of the other combat patrols. It's a really, really good box. And it seems like they're getting a pretty good box here. You get Acolyte Hybrids, another box of Acolyte Hybrids, you get a box of Aberrants, and then you get the Kellermorph, which is like a unique character, and the Abominant, which is another unique character. If you add up all of that for retail, it is $190 for a savings of $80. Not quite as good as the Adeptus Mechanicus, but still very, very good. I think it's a great box. You definitely need as many Acolyte Hybrids as you can possibly get. Aberrants maybe still aren't crushing it in the game, but I absolutely love them. I think they're fantastically beautiful models. And the Kellermorph and Abominant are beautiful models. But if I had to criticize anything in this box, I think the Kellermorph and the Aberrant were maybe a bad choice. I really would have liked to see the Saboteur and the Nexus, because I don't think as many people actually own those specific characters. They're a little bit newer, and they're a little bit maybe not as badass looking, but still have plenty of functionality in the game. And so I think it would have been more interesting, at least to me, as somebody who didn't buy those, but did buy the Abominant and the Kellermorph, to get those extra characters that I don't already have. But overall, a very, very good box. And last, and not least, maybe least, we'll see, Boarding Patrol Death Guard. It comes with a box of Plague Marines, and then I was very confused when I looked at the pictures on the Warhammer community article because it showed 10 Plague Marines instead of 7, and I got really excited for a second because I'm like, are they gonna give us 14? Are they gonna give us 2 boxes of Plague Marines? No. But they are giving us 10 Plague Marines, and that is because it is 7 Plague Marines in the standard Plague Marine box, and then the Plague Marine Reinforcements, which is 3 Monopose Plague Marines for $42. Games Workshop, I don't know why. It was very cute, it was very thematic when they put 7 Plague Marines in a box, but it is ruining everything going forward. Every Christmas Battle Force, every time we get a Combat Patrol, every time we get any sort of a bundle box, I have to bring this up because it's just weird to not get exactly the correct number of things, but yes. Plague Marine Reinforcements, Death Shroud Bodyguard, which are absolutely awesome, and they are $60, and the Lord of Virulence. If you add up the retail cost of all of those things, it comes out to $195 for a savings of $85, which sounds very good and right alongside all of the other boxes, but I would argue it's not as good because of the weird thing with the Plague Marines, where you buy most of your Plague Marines for like $55, and then you buy a few more Plague Marines for $42. Like $10 off gets you 3 guys. It doesn't really make any sense. And I think I would have been very, very happy if it came with 2 boxes of Plague Marines. Although I do love the Death Shroud Bodyguards and the Lord of Virulence. I actually don't have either of those units, so this box is very, very tempting. Although I haven't even cracked open my Christmas Battle Force of Death Guard, so I really should not even be looking at this box in any sort of a way that I might actually buy it. But one thing that number weirdness, the number of units in the box, got me thinking about was an old idea I had that a cool way to balance 40k, because 40k is historically imbalanced, would be to actually use the number of models in a unit as a form of balance. Because 10 Space Marines is not at all equal to 10 Imperial Guard or 10 Eldar Rangers or 10, Games Workshop makes their models, there's some outliers, but typically in squads of 5 to 10. But they probably shouldn't. Like if I was to look at 40k and I look at the lore and then look at the tabletop, I would probably say like 4 Space Marines should be equal to like 8 Eldar Guardians, or no, maybe probably less than that. Probably 10 Space Marines is equal, or 4 Space Marines is equal to 6 Eldar Guardians, which is equal to about 10 to 15 Imperial Guard, which is equal to probably 20 Chaos Cultists. And I think if you actually did break it down like that, the games of Warhammer 40k would probably look a lot more realistic to how they should be in the lore. Because like 4 Space Marines should be able to take on almost anything. A full squad of 10 Space Marines should be able to wipe almost anything in the game out. But in reality, there's not that huge a difference between, 10 Dark Eldar and 10 Space Marines, especially once you've added buffs and synergies with, HQ units alongside them. It all sort of evens out. And I get that the game of 40k is a very different thing to the world, universe, and lore of Warhammer 40k. And it was a very smart decision for Games Workshop to go with this 10 models per box, because you can sell a box of 10 guys for way more money than you can sell a box of 4 guys. And if you want to have a game that is very, very successful and makes a lot of money, it makes more sense to have a game where somebody needs to buy 2 boxes of 10 Space Marines as opposed to 2 boxes of 4 Space Marines. So I think Games Workshop overall probably made the right call, but I think it would be a really, really interesting experiment to try to balance 40k, not just with rules and strats, because with only 6 pips on a dice, you don't have that much room for change. But if the actual squad size of each particular unit was very, very different, I think that could be an interesting way to really, really rebalance things. Because you could make Space Marines. I remember this probably still exists, but there used to be a thing in like 5th edition and 6th edition Warhammer where people would create movie Marine stats, where one Space Marine is absolutely bananas powerful, and they actually perform like they do in like the books and novels. And I think basically the Space Marine movie that was made by the same people who produced the Bionicles movies, which the Bionicle movies aren't horrible. The Space Marine movie really was awful. But that was kind of what the idea was based on. And it would be fun to see Space Marines actually feel like they do in the novels. Because currently, Every single time I play my Space Marines, a huge swath of the Black Templar chapter gets wiped out every single game. Where in reality, battlefield losses for Space Marines should be more like 3, not 40. But it's also just a game. It's also just a game, and it is not that important. But I do think it is a little bit of a missed opportunity. But you know what is an opportunity I would absolutely never miss out on? That's right, our Patreon. Over there, we make brand new terrain packs every single month. This month, we have the Goblin Rave Cave, a super modular, dank, disgusting cave system full of line-of-sight blocking terrain, perfect for games like 40k Kill Team or anything else you can think of. We also make one extra episode of Eons of Battle every single week where we take a look at our patrons' miniatures and give them some ideas and critiques of how to improve their painting. We also host painting guide PDFs and live Discord hangouts. We also have a new tier where you can get your name on one of my Black Templar Space Marines and you can join the Immortal Crusade. This has been Models and Memories episode 100. I can't believe we made it to 100. And one more thing I would like to bring up. Recently, this past week, it was my birthday, and on my birthday, I finally beat Sean in a game of Kill Team. I was running the Death Watch Space Marines, and I beat him fair and square. I won the game with 1 operative alive, and I had 10 victory points, and he lost the game, I believe, with 2 operatives alive and only 8 victory points. So I have absolutely demolished Sean. I'm sure he's crying right now because he has finally been defeated, and it feels really, really good. Thanks for watching.